Brendan, can you hear me?
Oh, I can indeed.
Okay, sorry about that.
Not at all.
I have to see. I gotta get my notes though, because I've been practicing this. I met Brendan, geez, it's been a couple of months ago, we started talking. And Brendan is a New Yorker, but his mom and dad are from Galway, right?
From Ireland anyway, yeah.
Ireland. And Brendan went back to Ireland to be there with his home and where his family was from, and is an author there and doing a bunch of interesting stuff. He's writing some short stories in the Gaelic language. So we all have to learn this now so we can wish him a happy St. Patrick's Day. So it's Banachti na Vela Horrick. Okay, say that again, Brendan.
Banachti la eile fádrich riv galéir gejivin.
Okay, you got it a little bit longer than what I had, so that's good. I'm really happy to see that. Jerry, do we have this on video? We don't have it. Let's see, do we need to get that on video? There we go. I think we've got it. But I invited Brendan to tell us a little bit about how St. Patrick's Day is celebrated in Ireland. So I'm hoping, Brendan, you can share with us. This is and I don't know how much you know about Kiwanis, but Kiwanis is for kids. You saw us collecting money here before. For this week, it's for Riley Hospital for children here in Indiana, and we do a lot with kids all over the world, actually. And we do have some clubs in. I was trying to figure out where the closest club to you would be, but I wasn't sure. But I know we do have one in Kyiv, Ukraine, that's suffering right now. Excellent. And we've got them all over the place, but we'd like to hear a little bit about how you celebrate in Ireland.
Well, thank you so much, Gary. It's a pleasure to be with the Kiwanis Club today, and I know that you're celebrating your 100th anniversary. It's quite an accomplishment, and your good works are a credit to you and all who are members. Guramila Mahagi son an Chorisha Gaharha chun Gary Bailing Vishe Gohinta Chandesha Aglacha is Misha Brennan no Kahan Obalia and Ula Moore. Agus Tom in Mahoni Kunamara Filaher, but while the Manchid Filiacht Irahate Blat Gaelge Bachort Give Shane. I just want to say again, thank you. When speaking in the Irish language, I'm just sharing with you a bit of the taste of it and what it sounds like. I live my life in Connemara, where we speak Irish as our daily language. The Irish language is we say in Irish, Tirgan Anam, Tirgan Tanga. It means a country without a language is a country without a soul. And so the state and the people here have a project. It's a project of renaissance to restore the Irish language as we call it in our television station. The byline on the television station is TG Cahir Sul Ella, the other eye. So it's a sense that bilingualism restores to us part of what we've lost. When thinking about St. Patrick's Day, I thought, the best way to summarize it is perhaps the song, "The Wearing of the Green." So whereas I shared with you the Irish language and just a taste of its richness, I might just recite quickly a poem. When I was a child, this was the poem that I learned in my family growing up. It's William Butler Yeats famously erected a monument to a poet named Raftery, who was something like the blind oracle of the Irish tradition in his time, and he admired him and looked to him for inspiration. And this is a poem in the voice of Raftere that I learned as a child in my household. It's Misha Raftere on fille van dochish is gra le suile gan solis le cumas gan cra. Dul shir master go solis machri fan agus turshak go jera machri. Fech nish me es machul e balla eg shinam kjol de foki falla. The poet is describing his physical loss. He's blind. He's not rewarded in terms of money for his efforts to maintain the Irish tradition in its worst periods of oppression. But his cri is londochish le gra. His heart is full with hope and love. And he plays Ikshenim Kjol the Fokifal. He plays his music for empty pockets. And despite this, he was able to carry around with him a treasury of the Irish tradition, which inspired William Butler Yeats and gave Ireland a tradition where we have in our diaspora as well with Eugene O'Neill, a share of Nobel Prizes in literature that rivals any large country. But the song is perfect, I think, because it's like the Colossus on Charybdis and Scylla and Charybdis. There's one foot in the ballyhoo, which is the call of old Broadway, the Irish tradition which gave Hollywood its name after a small village in Wicklow, and the popular entertainment of America. So it has that we say in New York kitsch, from the German word, sort of made without as much effort as perhaps a greater piece of art. So it's popular. And then on the other side, the song belies a tradition that's much richer, that references ancient things, like St. Patrick himself, who brought a tradition to Ireland, which produced a remarkable civilization for the period in the wake of the Roman Empire and its fall. A tradition that produced illuminated manuscripts and actually gave the world, or the Roman alphabet, lowercase lettering, the indentation, paragraphs, and other aspects of writing that we sometimes don't realize came from the Irish tradition. But the song is The Wearing of the Green. You might notice I actually, as part of our tradition, wear a shamrock. And I'd like to perhaps just go through the song quickly and share with you the meaning of it. And I think in that way convey a sense of what the day means to someone like myself and to my family and to any of you who have an interest in it, I hope. But the chorus, I don't know if you know it. I don't know if we'll sing it together, but I'll try give it just the chorus, and then I'll just say a word or two about the stanza. For the where's it go? For the wearing o' the green, for the wearing o' the green, they're hanging men and women for the wearing o' the green. That's the chorus. Now it's a simple chorus. It says something much more ominous, however, with the hanging men and women, and it's not hyperbole either. That's why wearing the shamrock today is an innocent action. It just goes without saying. This is the triumph, perhaps, of Irish America, and our ability to win for ourselves a place in the continent and in the Republic of America, which we had a great deal to do with founding. Many of the signatories of the Declaration of Independence were Irish. One was actually born in Ireland, Carol. But if you look at the first stanza, "Oh, Paddy dear, and did you hear the news that's going round? The shamrock is by law forbid to grow on Irish ground. St. Patrick's Day no more, we'll keep his colours can't be seen, for they're hanging men and women for the wearing of the green." The connection with America comes in 1776 and 1798. At the time, the Irish Parliament was a credit to parliamentary oratory and to the republic tradition that informed the United States very directly. The White House, for example, is designed absolutely to spec on the design of Leinster House, which was the seat of the Fitzgerald in Dublin. John Fitzgerald Kennedy's occupation of the White House is a wonderful confluence of that fact. It was designed by an Irishman, Hoban, a Dublin architect, who, with Berkeley, the founder of Berkeley University, not the founder, but the namesake, the Irish philosopher, brought a Palladian style that defined 18th century architecture and defines very much the federal look of America. There's the Roman style, but there's this Palladianism, which you see in the White House, which is directly related to the style of architecture associated with the Irish Parliament. So in the second stanza, you see just quickly the reference to a man named Napper Tandy, who is analogous to Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson in the United States, as a Republican, as a defender of the freedoms of parliamentary democracy. And here we have, I met with Napper Tandy and he took me by the hand. He said, how's dear old Ireland and how does she stand? It is a most distressful country that you have ever seen. They're hanging men and women for the wearing of the green. So the wearing of the green then, which I'm doing now, you can see the popular kitschiness of it, but the ominous references to our history that it makes. The penal laws is what's being referenced. There was an act of betrayal in 1691 in Irish history, which is known as the Treaty of Limerick. It's interesting that the first mayor of governor of the state of New York was the Earl of Limerick. Thomas Dongan was his name. A statue to his honor was placed by Roosevelt in New York in a reference to the Charter of Liberties that Dongan gave the United States. He was drawing on the tradition of the Irish Parliament, and in so doing, gave a sense of the integrity of the American Parliament in relationship with that in London. He was basing this model of liberties on the tradition in Ireland, where our great orators and defenders of Irish liberty, such as Henry Grattan, the founder of the Irish Patriot Party, had said to the London Parliament that we have a right to exist. And this was in the wake of the penal laws and after the betrayal at Limerick. After the Treaty of Limerick was violated, the terms of it were violated. The English, we won't say the English, but the Parliament in London imposed upon Ireland a series of laws that were egregious. They specifically, and to summarize it, the green is the summary of it. The green is the symbol of Ireland. It is a symbol that references through wordplay on green, the sun, which is the Irish word for sun, and the galgraine, which is the, if you look at the etymology of the word green, the sanasiacht, we call this sort of word game, you look at the etymology and it goes back to the German grown. So green and grown, and the notion of grown to give us green things. The etymology of the German word grown is murky. We're not quite sure where in German it comes from. So we create a sense of the Proto-German. But the Celtic word, which is related to the Proto-German and is a living language still, as you heard me speaking it earlier, has a word for the sun called the grian. And it is perhaps related to the English word green, and the Irish speakers would play with this. And the ban was on our flag, which is a sunburst. The sunburst is called the Galgraine, and it was the flag of the Fenians. So the parliament, alien to our own tradition, put a law saying you could not wear the green on your lapel or wave that flag. So in defiance, taking prudently that one can't just defiantly wave the flag of your own country in your own country because of the new law, wearing green became a reference to it. Also, the word green in Irish is unya, which is a reference to the an unya, or the anuna, which is the harp. And so the other symbol of Ireland is the anuna. So to wave the flag of the harp was also illegal. And so to wear green, or unya, is to wear the harp without actually wearing it, because there's a sort. So there's a subterfuge that goes on in this relationship with symbols that wearing the shamrock means. So on St. Patrick's Day, where they say no more can be seen, in fact, we will be seen. And so the display that we all see, and that has become such a display indeed in America and across the world, is in reference to a time when we were hung and quartered for wearing our symbols. That's how much the Irish tradition was attacked. And I'll leave you with this really, it's a vexing image, I think. It's that of Eileen Ní Chonaill. St. Patrick is the liberator, the first emancipator of not just the Irish tradition, but of any tradition in Western literature. It's St. Patrick who, in the 5th century, wrote, which is a long time ago, and it's at the very beginning of any vernacular literature, wrote a letter excoriating Coroticus, who was the king of Dunbarton, who was taking Irish slaves. St. Patrick himself had been a slave and liberated himself, escaped his slavery, and then returned to the country where he had been enslaved in Ireland and proselytized a new religion, one that said the bloody god of Crum, the crummy god, is to be abolished and replaced by the god of empathy, the god of love, as was in Londóchus Magra, as was said by our great poet Raftery. And in replacing the crummy god of blood and gore with that of love and hope, he also called for the emancipation of slaves. He called for the emancipation of the Irish slaves and excoriated and excommunicated Coroticus for his evil and explained why it was evil. He was followed by Con Adamnan, or Adamnan, who wrote the Con, which is a law. It was called the First Geneva Accords, the Irish Geneva Accords, back in the 5th century, also an astonishing accomplishment for such a period, which called for civil rights and the protection of women and children in times of war. It was called the Law of the Innocents. And the rule was in the Irish system that innocent people, civilians, should not be harmed and cannot be harmed under penalty of lawful punishment for hurting civilians in a time of war. That accomplishment is called the Con of Adamnan. This is the tradition that we come from, and this is the tradition we were defending. And the continuation of St. Patrick's tradition of liberation was held by Daniel O'Connell, the great liberator of the Irish, who was referenced by Abraham Lincoln in his speeches, and it was seen as a fountain of this emancipatory consciousnness. And indeed, that was the case in England, where the London Parliament speeches of O'Connell led to emancipation. But it was Daniel O'Connell, the great liberator's aunt, who describes the penalties, as the line was, they're hanging men and women for the wearing of the green. She wrote a lament. It's one of the greatest laments or pieces of poetry written by a woman in any age, at any time, in any culture. It's one of the great masterpieces of world literature indeed. It's called the Cíne Art O'Leary, the keening or the wooing or the mourning, the lamenting of her lover, Art O'Leary. Art O'Leary was one of the wild geese, they called him, after the Treaty of Limerick. He went to the continent with the other Irish soldiers and there became a proud and a fantastically important soldier of the Hungarian Hussars, and was a wonderfully accomplished soldier. He decided to return to Ireland in a time of penal laws when they were hanging men and women for the wearing of the green. And he was confronted by a petty landlord And this great soldier who had seen battlefields in the continent and had won medals from the great aristocracies of Europe, was so offended that this man would press upon him using the penal law. Says, "Give me your horse. It is the law. You are an Irish Catholic. Ireland is now ruled by an alien tradition. You must give me your horse. It is the law." And he, of course, he was a great soldier. There's no way he would accept it, and he refused. He was then ambushed and murdered in a disgusting act, and lamented by his lover, Eileen O'Connell, the aunt of Daniel O'Connell, the liberator. And there's this scene where, in the depths of her sorrow, she discovers the body of her murdered lover and puts her hands in his blood, and in tasting the blood, puts a curse upon the slave takers. It's a similar curse that St. Patrick put upon Coroticus. Coroticus's family was destroyed shortly after the death of St. Patrick. The curse seemed to have worked. But the wearing of the green is that. It's that triumph, really. It's the triumph and the abolishment of slavery. Indeed, the Fighting 69th, which flew the flag of the Harp and the Galgraina at Gettysburg and defended Pennsylvania from the incursion of General Lee and won. There's a great Celtic cross there commemorating that victory. That wearing of the green is that triumph. It's the triumph of Gettysburg. It's the bringing of that flag, the very flag from Gettysburg, to the Irish Parliament in Dublin, a free parliament, the Parliament of the Republic of Ireland, by John F. Kennedy, who gave it to the Irish people as a gift and reconnected the connection between Ireland and the United States, I would say, forever. So it was a great pleasure to have the chance to talk to you, especially on your wonderful anniversary for such a noble organization such as the Kiwanis Club. And I want to thank you again, Gary, for the opportunity, and wish you all the best for your next 100 years. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Brendan. I just wanted to, normally we give this mug, I don't know if you can see it here, I don't know. Obviously not. Let's see, give a mug to our speakers. So tell me your address, so I'm gonna send you one.
Oh, a virtual mug is wonderful indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brendan. Thanks a lot, and I really appreciate it. What a fantastic opportunity to learn more about Ireland and how you celebrate. Thanks.
Thank you very much.